You ready? Three, two, one, go. Hi, everyone. Welcome, folks, to another video from A Plain Truth. I have the honor and privilege of being with someone who's been along for quite the ride here for the last 5 weeks or so, or 6 weeks of the Paradise Fires, who lives just outside and above Paradise up in Quincy. And I don't think we need to use anybody's names. It's not important. Her story is what's much more important. So maybe we can call her, how about if we call you something like Sparky? How does that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. So we got Sparky here. And Sparky, geez, how did we meet?
I actually was watching your videos, and you were talking to victims and trying to find people and trying to help people with donations. And I was trying to do the same thing with no luck, and so I emailed you, and then you called me.
And now, that was like a couple weeks ago, maybe?
Yeah, yep.
And then now, since then, you've been able to help a lot. You've been helping people right above Paradise and Magalia. Can you tell about what the stories about people coming together and how you're helping them?
Yeah, so you and Valerie connected me with a girl in Concal, and she's setting up a distribution center out of her house. One of her, the house her and her boyfriend were staying in burned down, but the main house on the estate did not. And so they're living out of there now, and so she is taking donations and just laying it all out in the house for people to come and get whatever they need whenever they need it. And so we've been talking and working on getting stuff down to her. Her and her boyfriend are going to come up tomorrow and pick up a load of stuff. They're also getting like somewhere around 20 or 30 live Christmas trees donated to them for people down there for Christmas. So it's amazing what's going on down there. And the town of Quincy is really coming together. There's a lot of people coming out of the woodworks who really want to help and want to do, the driving runs to take the donations from Quincy down there to her. And, and we're all still just collecting. A lot of people are doing toy drives for the kids this Christmas to bring down there too, so.
Yeah, this is Wendy, right? Kim, I'm sorry. Yeah, she had quite already a collection in that house. I mean, I guess this guy was an old Granger. And I'm a member of the Grange up in Anderson Valley. I mean, the old farms all had Granges for their communities. And it's just everybody helping everybody else. And to see a network like this and connecting with you, and what I call the circle of trust of people up there that are getting together that we've been talking to. And, thank you for doing that. Why are you doing this?
Well, I mean, for one, I've always I love helping people. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do as a human being. Two, I live in a small mountain town, and we had actually a pretty big fire here, I think it was last year or the year before, and it got really close to our town, and our town is very, very tiny, and it could have been gone, completely gone. And, and it could still burn down. So I know that if I was in that situation, I would want people to help me and do the same thing. So, putting the karma out there, doing the right thing, and, we all have so much. I mean, we're a consumer world, and it's disgusting, and we can, everybody can get rid of more than half of what they have and still be just fine. And so, that's what we're supposed to do is when, your fellow human needs help, you help.
Right. Right. I want to get back to the community in a minute, but I want to go back to how you first discovered and learned that your neighboring town was on fire. Were you aware in the morning of what was going on?
So that morning was kind of bizarre. I woke up and
this is November 8th, right? The Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I woke up and I was talking to my girlfriend. She works in town at one of the schools here. And I was asking her something, and she said, the power's out in town. And I said, well, because when I woke up, our power went out here. Now, we have Plumas Rural Electrical Services. It's a co-op. It's a smaller electric company. And in town, a lot of people have PG&E. And so the power went out here, and it was out for about a half hour, 45 minutes or something, and then it came back on. And so I was talking to her in town, and she was saying that school was probably going to be closed because the power's not coming back on. And PG&E sent them a notice saying, high winds, we're going to be shutting the power off. And then she had mentioned to me there's a fire down the canyon. And I said, I was looking online, and I saw something on our paper, breaking news. A fire was starting down there near Polga, and we didn't have wind here, and I thought it was very bizarre. And I thought, just them cutting the power out all day. It was all day. Our town had no power, well into the next day. And so she was updating me because her husband has family down there, and they were being evacuated, and they were heading up here to their house, and they live right down the street from me.
What time of morning? What time of morning was that?
I don't remember. I want to say could have been around like 10-ish.
All right, so you've gotten going and stuff, and so around 10-ish you started hearing, because 6:30 to 8:30 is when it hit town at 8:30, and by 9:30 people were trying to get out of there. And there's stories of people being in town, not getting out, being herded into the, what is it, a Kmart or a Walmart there?
I think it was a Walmart.
Yeah, and that's another story that needs to be vetted too. So when you heard about it, were you familiar with the town of Paradise and people in there and stuff? Did you know people, or have you known people?
I'm not very familiar with Paradise, no, and the only people I know down there is my girlfriend's husband's sisters. We've known them for years, so we're all friends. We all get together during holidays and events and birthdays and stuff. So when I heard that they were evacuating and they were coming up here, I was doing a ton of research to try to help them figure out, where the fire was, if their house was going to be saved or not, trying to be optimistic for them as much as I could. They also have young kids, and they had to leave with nothing. And so I gathered as much clothes and stuff as I could for their kids and for them. And I think they didn't even make it up here until like 5 o'clock at night or something. It took them a while to get up here. So we were pretty worried because, we didn't hear from them. They said they were evacuating, they were coming up here, but, then it took them a while.
Where are they now, or how are they now?
So the one sister ended up going down to the Bay Area. The other one came up here, and then they both met back in Chico after the fire was done burning and everything happened, and they situated themselves. And I think they both sisters found houses in Chico.
And everybody's been scattered, right? I mean, Quincy and Sacramento, and so it's like it's going to be impossible to figure out what really happened or how many. Hey, Sparky, just for everybody, what's your background, or you have 2 children, right?
Yes.
And your mother, and you take care of your children, but you're also active in your community?
As much as I can be. I'm on the water board here in my community, and I'm on the road board. I also do volunteer work for our fairgrounds here when we have a fair going, and we have an Americana Fest. It's like a bluegrass fest that I work on every year and help get that all set up and run that when it's going. Anything that happens in town, pretty much try to be a part of and be active and support everybody.
Yeah, and so
we always have.
Yeah, okay. I was just going to say the story that brings to heart is the one about your friend who had the Toys R Us building. Can you do you feel comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, totally. There was articles in our newspaper, so it's public knowledge for everybody. But
it was the Plymouth County News, right?
He's in Greenville, which is down the canyon from us a little ways, and I was looking for places to bring donations, and there was all these articles in the paper about all these people doing stuff, and so a girl referred me to him, said that he was doing something in Chico, and so I called him, and he had said that he was given the keys to an old Toys R Us building that was closed down, and he turned it into, I think he called it Miracle City. And he was bringing donations and food, counseling services. He had a list for people to put, lost and found people to put their names on. And I think they were vetting people also to, ensure that they were victims from the fire so they could really help the people that needed the help. And so when I called him to find out about bringing donations there, because that sounded like an amazing thing to do, right. He had said that FEMA came in and essentially demanded that he hand over the keys. And give them the building. And so
Well,
he
wait.
kind of
So
stood his ground.
how long after the beginning of the fire was this? A couple weeks, or how far into it do you think?
I would say, yeah, a couple weeks.
And then that was in the paper in the Plumas County News, right?
Yeah, yep.
And they've been updating things, and you being on the water board, you're familiar with structure and how things are laid out, right?
Right.
And you're seeing, what are you seeing, and what's your take on Paradise? What do you think? What's your feelings?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of feelings. What do you mean specifically?
Well, anyway, what are you thinking? What are you seeing? I mean, what's happening there? Right there, you're seeing with all the state. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what's your feelings about what's happening there in a big picture?
Well, I think it's a mass tragedy on multiple levels. I think that the government is not doing what they're supposed to be doing for people. They're supposed to be there to serve us, public servants, and that is not at all what happened. They didn't even show up for a while, and then when they did, they strong-armed people. And that's, again, not how they handle things, especially when people like Ken that made that building happen for those people, and then they just shut it down. And they fired all the local people that were volunteering there. For what reason? There's no reason for that to happen. They have their own places that they set up. And I'm hearing from people that there was nobody even in the lines for what FEMA was trying to help people for, because they have such a bad reputation for really not helping people, and
right. We went to the Office of Emergency Services on the massive FEMA operation. I mean, 40, 50 acres next to the Chico Airport. We said,
right.
We have clothes to give. The guy had to go and ask his supervisor because they didn't know where to give anything. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Why are they there? What do you think they're there for?
Yeah, I think that it's, I think there's a hidden agenda. Well, I don't even know that it's really that hidden, but I think that there's an ulterior agenda going on here for them. And, we're seeing it happen everywhere with every mass tragedy that happens, like in Hawaii and, all these hurricanes and flooding. And they come in and they set up their camps and then they do nothing. And then we're just hearing horrible reports from people that, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so it seems like they're just trying to put in a presence. They're trying to, let people know, like, here we are, and we're not going anywhere, but we're not going to help you, but here we are, and be afraid of us. Because,
not only that, but they're clear-cutting the sides of the roads. They're putting in infrastructure like crazy. I mean, they're doing all this massive equipment we saw in 70. I saw going up there. I reported on last time. I mean, and then they've got this fog, this chem fog they're making. I don't know if it's in Quincy, but down in Chico and stuff, and it lays really low. Like, I grew up in fog. I grew up in the West Coast in Marin, and I knew the fog coming in from the West Coast. When the marine layer would come in, the ground would be warming up in the morning, and so it would burn it off. But this wasn't anything like it. But it just, you couldn't see. You were in a fog, and in Paradise you couldn't see anything. And I'm going, what a way to have perfect cover if you want to do stuff and get away with it, because you can just make your own weather anywhere. And they're doing that here in Santa Rosa too, and nobody knows the difference. And they could be putting anything up above us. And it's like, are you seeing it too?
Yeah. Well, I didn't necessarily. I mean, there's spraying chemtrails all over this place, and then we'll have like blankets of just white sky. It doesn't even look like a cloud. It just looks like a piece of paper laying in the sky.
Right. And
sometimes it looks like plasma. It's not a real cloud. But one of the biggest problems is, people are always looking down at their phones and they're not looking up at the sky. So no one's realizing what is really going on up there. It's disgusting. And we've had fog here and there. But what I thought was interesting was during the fires, we never once had smoke up here. Not even once. It all blew away from us.
And you're about how many miles? You're east of them.
So we are like northeast. Yeah.
Right. About how many miles by the crow flies?
I don't know. I'm not so great with mileage.
Maybe 30, 40, 50 miles.
We're 2 hours drive, so.
Yeah, so like 50 miles as a crow flies, probably, if you took a stick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so you're the neighboring hoods, because everybody's there is in the Sierra foothills. And the Paradise lays on a bluff. And so what are people, are you in touch with people that are anywhere else? Anybody gone into Paradise yet? You heard any stories yet?
So there's one guy up here that's been bringing donations down there and trying to help out people. And he had some interesting stories. I didn't really get to fully focus on him because my kids were fairly distracting, but he had seen some interesting stuff just about the evacuees being at some of the parking lots and being told that they had to leave, and I guess FEMA scurried out of there real quick and left it to the local sheriff to get people out, but they didn't want to do that because half of their family and friends were the evacuees that were in these parking lots in tents and in cars and had nowhere to go.
Was this at the Walmart, the Walmart in Chico?
He didn't specify what parking lot it was in,
Okay.
but somewhere down there. And he claims that there's still people down there in tents and in their cars. And, I haven't been down there to know, but I've been trying to ask people, and I've had a friend who drove down there who said he didn't see anybody anywhere. He didn't see tents or people in cars. My husband drove up one night. He was out of town and came up 99 and said he saw people in tents right outside of Chico coming up the canyon on 99 on the side of the road in tents still. And that was like, I don't know, a week and a half ago. So, yeah, it's a bizarre situation of what's really going on.
Did you hear any stories like I'm hearing about the cars getting so hot people couldn't sit in them when they're waiting to get out because it got so heated in their cars they had to get out on foot and walk? And it was including local cops, local firemen. They're all herded into the town of Paradise from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock that day when the fire started, and they couldn't get out. I mean, they were surrounded by fire everywhere. And then few guys got out, but most guys, are you hearing stories about people not making it out at all?
Yeah, I have. I have a lady here who I'm pretty good friends with, owns a thrift store, and she had a few of her friends didn't make it out. They passed away. And so they were, I forget the way that she said that they were, but they woke up and then the fire was going and they were trying to get out, but the fire, she said, it jumped over the hill and came down and surrounded them, and nobody was able to get out. And she had a couple other friends that were able to escape it, but a few weren't and ended up dying in there. And there was an article in the paper about her too. She also, one of her friends had sent her a Christmas card, and that's one of the people who passed away in the fire. And then she got the Christmas card, a few days later after she found out her friend passed away. So it's really sad.
I know stories like that about a couple that was coming back up from Sacramento, got in a head-on car crash, about another lady who had their daughter, 38-year-old daughter, was in a hospital in Sacramento because her burn from the fires was so great you couldn't even recognize her, and the parents couldn't see her because they didn't have her birth certificate. They wouldn't let her see her daughter for 3 weeks down in Sacramento after they lost everything. I mean, these stories are horrific. Horrific.
They are, and that's another thing is they expect, these people had to leave, with seconds notice. And so, the only way a lot of these people were allowed to get back in is if they showed paperwork.
Right.
Proof that they live there.
Right.
And so maybe you had your license, but I was hearing that they wanted your license and, proof that you had a house there. Like a bill or something or whatever. Which is that's ridiculous. How can you?
Well,
you
they're
can't.
funneling them into the FEMA centers, and they've got the genetic known 23andMe testing mobile kits. That's what they're advertising on 60 Minutes. So they're getting everybody's DNA that got out of there. But in my point, what I'm feeling happen, what I'm looking at is that this was not wanting anybody to get out.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And I think the 23andMe thing, what I thought was really interesting about that, when they started coming out and saying that they wanted people's DNA so that they could find their loved ones and blah, 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 I thought to myself, why don't they use the records? And then a video came out about, these people saying whatever, and they said, well, or it was a newscast or something, we would use the dental records, but the dentist office burned down. I'm thinking it's 2018, And I'm pretty sure for the last almost 10 years, they've been converting everything into digital copies, which there should be a database that they can go onto. It shouldn't, you just log in and it should be there. It's not like
it's not just here. It's everywhere else. We become numb to body counts, and by doing so, we don't ask questions. We don't count numbers. It's not something we do after Katrina, after Hurricane Harvey. The fires in Santa Rosa were grossly undercounted. People tried to start missing persons that were shut down. It didn't amount to much. It's just we're hearing people being strong-armed and a guy being arrested challenging the PG&E of their rights to cut trees. They shouldn't be up there doing it. The local sheriff came and arrested them. It's just, I don't know. It's something else is big time, and there seems to be that area they're focusing on. There's a reason they picked that specific area. It's just, it's biblical. It's kind of like, it's a really big deal about what they're doing there.
Yeah, it is, and it's super fishy, and the more you look into it and the more you keep hearing things from people and seeing, especially newscasts and, even the weather forecasts, I mean, it's all really adding up to, it just looks suspicious, and there's no other way, I can't see anything else from it other than something's not right, and I'm having a hard time with the people who can't see it, I mean, I totally get it, but at the same time, there's a lot of people that just want to be like, oh, PG&E, and I can't believe it. I said, how many fires can you, before you blame one person, then do you start being like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. So PG&E is responsible for how many fires now? It's like you can only use a scapegoat so many times.
Well, but there's no people are not using their common sense. That's why John Knox is cultivate your common sense. But I'm seeing just so many more women are coming awake now. It's really beautiful how many. The mother bear, as I calling it, it's really neat to see you guys stepping up now and speaking out and speaking truth. And, you got your partner saying, hey, be careful, honey, and stuff like that. And you got to protect yourself. And, it's that we tell and share our stories that helps others activate, motivate, get up and do something. Because everybody can do something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think people need a lot of reminding. A lot of these donation places have been putting dates on how long they're collecting and donating, to like the 22nd, like right before Christmas. And everybody asked me, well, how long are you, my goddaughter and I set out boxes to collect donations here in our town. And people are asking, how long are you going to do that till? And I said, until everybody's needs are met. What do you mean, when am I going to do it till? This isn't it's not like, I don't know how to phrase it correctly, but it's not like, oh, it's Christmas, let's celebrate. Okay, Christmas is over, now let's move on. That's not what you do. This is allegedly thousands of people, right, that should need help. And so if that's really the case, if there's that many people, then we should be helping them. It's going to take years. It's going to take years to rebuild these people's lives and help them, and it should never stop. It should keep going. And because we know it's going to happen again somewhere else. And so be prepared, have everything in place, and you keep collecting the donations. So when another tragedy hits, we're ready, and we have an abundance. We can start helping them right from the get-go, not scramble at that last second to try to help people. Everybody kind of lets it fade away and forgets.
No, I like it, and it's beautiful what you're saying and how you're expressing that too. And I'm just about to publish my little tips. It's a Awakening Truthers Activist Guidebook. And it's just all the experiences I've had about what we've done and what people can do and others that have inspired me about how you can help and how you can, whether it be getting involved in the food chain, growing food or helping distribute food or finding extra food and distributing it out that way, or whether you do it through clothing, whether you do it through fundraising, whether you start a Facebook meetup group to meet other truthers and awakeners, whatever you're doing. Everybody can and should be doing something, and then get and find your tribe. And then we can network our systems as long as we have this kind of communication devices. And everybody can kind of find their tribe now through the cyber world. But at some point it can be just, what I call look, touch, and feel. And that's gonna have to be just like, you and me are starting something and others are doing the same thing. So
yeah,
cool.
And the internet's a great thing, but it's not going to be around forever, and it's already happening. The censorship and taking away things. And it's, I was raised by my grandparents, and so I know there's the old saying, you talk face to face. And so, it's a saying for a reason. And so I think we need to start communicating more literally, talking to people, be it on the phone or be it face to face, and meeting with people, getting together and forming these bonds and these relationships. So if we don't have the internet or we don't have our phones, we know where these people are. You can drive to their house, or you have a meeting spot, or you do something on a regular so that you have that and you're not at a loss. And you're like, well, I don't have my GPS, I don't have maps, I don't have this. I still have paper maps and atlases, because you just don't know. You got to still be able to get around. And it's like an epidemic that's happening of people right now is people depend too much on technology, and then they're, what's going to happen when it's all gone? They're going to be lost.
Well, and get the kids back to learning how to read a map. You bring good points. Write a book. That's what I'm covering. It's just giving people, inspiring things to think about what they can do to this, just like you're doing, just like we're all trying to do. Is Awakening Truther Activist Guidebook I'm releasing right as we speak. And
very nice.
And it's just kind of cool. I want it to be affirmative to what we're doing. I want it to be here. Let's do it together. Let me hit public.
Yeah, and and what I also love about this too is it's really bringing out the goodness in people, and it's bringing out the bad too, but it's also bringing out the good, and that's really what needs to be focused on. And when this happened, and I told my kids, my friend's sister-in-law's, her kids, they're friends. My kids and their kids are friends, and so we immediately that night went through, and the kids got rid of half their toys, and they were like, let's get rid of this, let's get rid of that, let's give this to them. And, my kids are young. I mean, they're, under 5. And so for them to show such gratitude and appreciation and selflessness was amazing. And that's what you need to teach these kids at such a young age is help everybody, help people, and see that they've lost things. My kids have been watching the coverage on these fires and seeing the houses that burned down and what's been lost, and knowing that nothing that we have is permanent. This can all be gone in a flash of an eye. Be grateful for what you have, and when you see somebody that needs something, you help. You do something for them, and you get out there and you do it. So that's been a really amazing thing to see is the kids come together. My goddaughter, she's 12 years old, and it was her, I was collecting donations, but I was like putting up flyers, but she came out and she was like, let's put out boxes and let's get them in these stores. And she, wrote up a nicer flyer, and she really got involved with it. And, it's really nice to see the younger generation
Awakening Truthers.
Proactive.
I wanted to get into...
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
I was just saying it's nice to see the younger generation being proactive.
And that's where we got to. And the problem is with I call us the baby doomers, because on our watch we ran up so much, so they got away with so much. We didn't watch for the children, and their futures are already compromised in many, many, many different ways. And so now it becomes noble, and now we sacrifice to the sacred for our children, the future of all life. And now it's what we want to see. What do we want to make as this light begins? We know the darkness now. We know what we're facing. They did laser surgery. The video we just brought in that you shared. In fact, here we go. You were the first one. I don't know if you know this story, Sparky, but when you're sending me stuff, I was looking when I went up there 3 days ago with Valerie Jager. And the week or 2 weeks before when I was up there, we were looking for this guy who told us there was these laser cuts on the sides of the hill. And we didn't go that way. We went another way, and we didn't see it. Well, in my mind, I was ready to see something like that. And when I was driving on 70, I saw the hill, and I said, there it is. And you sent me a magazine with that exact picture in that I used in the publication, along with the one that I didn't get the picture of, which I desperately wanted, was the one of the car sitting at the gas station that's all torched out. They were torched in the car waiting for gas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy what's going on up there, and it's like how when people look at that picture, and then to just be like, oh, this was just a forest fire, really? Beyond one house being burned, the next house not, one house burned, one house not. It's crazy. It just, how can you just in your logical mind as a human being be like, oh, this was just natural, and that's, fires just do that. They're unpredictable. That's ludicrous. That's a ludicrous statement. And
well, it does. But there's and I want to just keep warning people about this, is because they're not waking up. People aren't going to wake up because you decide you want them to at this moment. It doesn't work like that. It's putting the seeds out there and putting the word out there and sounding the alarm to educate, to alert, and inform is what I say. But don't the outcome of whether or not they get it. Find others that are waking up. Find others that are on the shore that want to know more. Find others that you can work with that are going, yeah, I'm on the same page. That's what you and I are. That's what these other guys, Doug, and these other people, we're all on the same page now, which is beautiful. But we're going to organize our own rat lines, as they're called, in tribe, and you'll form your tribes up there. We'll get our tribes here. We'll communicate in our way. And that's what's forming, is this new way of taking care of each other, and we'll share of how we do that. That's what's going to be really beautiful, like you're doing, inspiration through perspiration is what I say. And that's coming up right now. Hopium Addicts Anonymous will give people hope. Because you're giving to others eyes to see, and that's by your light of doing what you're doing. And so thank you, and I appreciate you telling the story. This was really beautiful. Anything else you want to add or say?
The one thing that I think is interesting is a couple of the people that I've been talking to, and, they're saying PG&E did this, and I said, I said, Mike Morales, on YouTube has a video from a satellite map, a weather satellite map of when the very second the fire started of an explosion. I said, so, for me to believe it's PG&E is kind of hard. I researched what a transformer looks like if it explodes, and it looks nothing like what Mike Morales found. And a lot of people are saying, well, I haven't heard about that. I haven't seen that video anywhere. And I said, well, yeah, because the news isn't touching it. No one's, and that video has been brought to several people who could air it and put it out there, but no one's doing it for some reason. So that's been one piece of information that I've really been able to share with people that have kind of waking them up slowly. Seeing that, and now they're thinking, what is happening? What is that? And starting to, that's where it all begins, with a question, and that's what it takes to get everybody involved, is just as soon as they ask a question, then it begins.
And that's why you can do many different ways, and the Awakening Truth or Activist Guidebook here I'm releasing is many different ways you can do it. And you can do it where it's what I call non-invasive. Instead of saying, you must listen to me, I'm telling you, and I am right, you don't know anything. I use third party, what I call third party activism, is I'll start folding $9-11 bills at a gathering, at a table, just kind of sit down and start folding. Somebody will come over and say, what are you doing? I'll say, oh, you ever seen 9/11 on the back of the bills? And all of a sudden I got 20 people around me, and they're going, I'll be damned,
Yeah.
Didn't say a word.
It's a really interesting thing. It's the same thing like Flat Earth. It's the same thing. Once you just start kind of talking about it, saying, different comments, people start, what are you talking about? Well, how would you know that? And it's really interesting. It's a really good way, I think, to get into a conversation with people to kind of help them wake up a little bit, especially the people you care about.
Well, and we're all in this together, and we're finding our tribe, because even those we appreciate and we love, those people that are nearest and dearest to us, those aren't necessarily the people that we're going to be able to speak on this kind of level of conversation with.
True.
It'll be a very slow process for an awakening from somebody that goes at sea level to the top of Mount Everest without any acclimation.
Yeah.
And then understanding where they are in the process of awakening is important. But planting seeds, giving them a book, that's we all can do something. And so that's, I really honor you, and I look forward to working more forward with you and making the difference up there. And let's see what we can create and how we can help, and reaching out an open heart, and then putting yourself out there. It's just doing, it's just now I know why Nike said, just do it. Get it? DEW, just do it.
Yeah.
And it's not the New World Order, guys. It's the Do World Order out here in California.
Exactly.
Anyway, we'll be in touch, and thank you, Sparky. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
And